we're in the middle of losing our free speech, losing any dissent, criticism of, right now, vaccines. But it's kind of a test run so that they can do that to whatever they don't really want you talking about, right? I mean, that only makes sense. So if we lose the ability to dissent, to speak up on our own behalf or anybody else's, then we lose everything else, because how can you make things right if you can't even speak up? So we're very close to losing free speech. And I don't mean years, I mean months, you know, like this coming year. Right now, they're perfectly capable of shutting down anything that we read, anything that we search for, what comes up in the search engines. They do choose what we can see when we do searches on Google. That's proven. Tulsi Gabbard sued Google right before elections this year because they were basically shadow banning her. You know, she would come up very last in searches, that sort of thing. The Clintons did that, or I should say Hillary Clinton did that in the 2016 election. So that anything that you tried to look up, if you tried to look up, say, Clinton body count, you wouldn't find it. You would only find positive stories about her. So this is already something that they can and have done. And that's for money. Also, I've done a lot of searches trying to find out what's up with Palestine and Israel. But only Israel positive stories show up, or at the best, something that's neutral. Something that's neutral to both, saying, oh, well, you know, it's here and there, but that's just not the case. And it's painted to be the case by what they allow you to see when you do a search on it. So in doing so, they form our opinions, because, you know, search engines and such are how we learn about things. So in forming our opinions, that's, you know, that's thought control, isn't it? And they're doing what the equivalent to burning books by deleting anything off of YouTube that they find to be offensive or against whatever, you know, fill in the blank. Whatever it is that they don't want you to talk about or have videos about, they straight up delete your videos, or just make it so that you can't spread it. You know, people can't see it. So then, with the book burning and the censoring, it's total control over what we think. It's really at the very beginning stages. It's almost like a trial run. But as we approach possible war in the Middle East, and who knows how far that will go, we need to know what's going on. We need to fight for our free speech and our free press, because it's going away very, very rapidly. With Julian Assange speaking up about war crimes and ending up in prison for 10 years and possibly facing life in prison and then tortured in jail. And, you know, what member of the press is going to put that risk on the line to expose anything? So there they got free press shut down. They've also, before they've raided, I think, television stations that are reporting on stuff they don't want. Already, if you try to, if you watch TV and you want to know what's going on with military or stuff, war stuff overseas, they don't cover it, period. And if they do, they have only the Pentagon representative to interview to tell you what's going on. They will not cover wars or military actions abroad. Besides that, that is their coverage. So we're completely the tunnel is narrowing down to where we just won't know anything that's going on. So that's happening, and then they're setting up what's looking more and more to be mandatory experimental vaccine, and shutting down any dissent, hard shutting down any dissent about it. Like you will get your channel erased if you even mention it in an unflattering light. So they're full-on propaganda and full-on censorship on an experimental vaccine that was pushed through, fast-tracked through the FDA, and the FDA's got some corruption in its history, a lot actually. They pushed the production of the thing, instead of a decade or what, it was, a few months. Well, that's concerning. I'm not going to go off about vaccines because I don't want this video banned. So, if we don't actually stand up right now, what happens when we lose speech to defend ourselves, when it's corporations controlling the government? Do you think that the corporations are going to do anything remotely compassionate or moral? What's the history? They've got us watching them and they won't do anything moral. We're watching them. We know what they're doing, and they'll do things extremely immoral knowing that we're going to push back. So what will they do when we don't have a voice? It only makes sense that they will continue to, they don't even have to tiptoe because we can't push back. They will do what they want. And what would they want? Ultimately, what would they want from us if a corporation does not care? It's a psychopath. Even if there's a person in charge, it's usually a psychopath. When's the last time you heard of a corporation doing something moral without it being watched by people and getting brownie points for it or something like that? No, it's all about money. And if we have no voice and the corporations are in control of everything, what is the trajectory? Where does this go? What's the most useful thing that a corporation could do to a population? Subjugation, slavery. Give us just barely what we need, contact trace us, have digital surveillance so that the system knows whether you're doing something you're not supposed to do. And they'll put cameras in your house, microphones in your house because you can't speak out against it. And they'll be giving us checks because they're destroying the economy. And then if we do anything wrong, they'll deduct it from our check. Or this digital passport, vaccine digital passport, they can straight up suspend that if we do anything wrong, right? So that gives us a situation where we can't get together and protest because they'll know where we are, what we're doing, and what we say. So that's a situation where you'll be enslaved indefinitely because you can't get together to protest. You can't speak up because you're censored. You're told what to do or else you go hungry. And you can try to stand up and give up your food and everything you need, but you'll be alone. And then they can bring in police or whatever to deal with you, the one person. They don't need to before that. It's all digitally monitored. They don't have to hire police. Shit, they don't even need prison. They can just make you stay in your house with no visitors. This is the trajectory, and our window of being able to speak up about it is closing very rapidly. We can still stand up together right now, but we need to come together. This left-right thing, there are ideology differences, of course, but that needs to be set aside because we won't have any left and right if we are enslaved. There will just be working for the man as much as possible without killing you, and you won't care about left or right. So we need to put that stuff aside and all stand up together and resist all of this tyranny, resist this free speech muzzle, resist the physical muzzle, resist contact tracing, Resist this experimental medication, whatever experimental. See, I'm already self-censoring. Anybody who wants to be on YouTube has to self-censor right now. So the window is closing. The noose is tightening. We can stand up still right now. We can come together and refuse to participate in our own demise. Refuse. Resist. Refuse.
Stand up.
It's uncomfortable. I get it. To take off a mask in a store where everybody's wearing a mask. You know, keep a distance, be respectful. Try to go in off hours where it's not crowded. But do not wear the mask. It's uncomfortable. After 2 or 3 times, it's not so bad. It's not bad at all. And people actually respect you and kind of feel like they should do it too, but they're a little bit afraid. Understandable, it's uncomfortable. But it's not nearly as uncomfortable as being told what to do every moment of every day with no individuality. Enslaved, I'm telling you, just think about the trajectory if there is no voice to defend us. And if it's corporations running the government, and it absolutely is, think about where this trajectory would go if left unchecked, because no voice, no check. Think about what we're going to fight for. Think about what we have to stand up against, because this is our only chance. If they're able to digitally enslave us, it's a really simple process to make a utopia for the very wealthy and a dystopia for the other people. And they would never have to worry about it. It's a really easy thing to maintain, and they'd never have to see our suffering. It's uncomfortable much more than not wearing a mask or standing up or speaking up. I don't like it. I'm not an aggressive type of person, but this is humanity's future. And it sounds so hyperbolic, it sounds so out there for me to say, but look at what's going on. Stand up, think about it, while we still have a chance to speak up. And they're still letting us protest a little. But our protests can be absolutely, will not close the store because they said so. Will not wear a mask because they said so. Will not get a vaccine because they said so. We don't have to be medicated by something that we don't trust. That's a bodily autonomy thing. To put something in my body against my will is absolutely against human rights. Anyway, we have to resist all of this together, all of us, left, right, all colors, all persuasions. We all have to stand up and absolutely refuse to give up our rights anymore. This is our last chance. This is it. I love you all. Take care.
Stand up.
Sensory, psychological, physical deprivation of people, psychological and physical torture, includes testing toxic substances on subjects. This is also part of the black psychiatry. Personality breakdown techniques. You know, the psychological profile of all globalistic governments all over the world is not this supranational minority of banksters, politicians, and pharmaco mafia. The psychological profile of today's globalistic power is the profile of serial killer. They are serial killers. All of us are enslaved today. This great experiment on human beings failed. I think so.